I did 28 years with this man here. You know me, Ms. Renowski, from Angola. You paroled me in 2017. I've been out. I've been doing good. I come to the 72. I've got a job. I got more jobs than I can handle right now. No problem. That is my brother-in-law. I married his sister since I've been home. And I'm asking y'all to give him another opportunity because I'm like this here. I would bet my life that if he get out, he would die in the street. He ain't coming back. Because that's the same thing everybody thought was going to happen to me, but I made him out of a lie. Life is too good in the free world.
Will the plea from his former cellie, now brother-in-law, help persuade the parole board, help persuade Ms. Renata, who was deputy warden of Angola way back then? It is an interesting approach. And, well, this man, he's locked up for shooting at a police officer, but that wasn't his first trip with the rodeo. He's a third-time felony offender, and he has actually killed a man before. Yes, he was convicted of manslaughter, killing a man in a bar fight, and he only served about 8 years for that. Then out in the streets when he shot at a police officer. So this is no easy decision by any stretch of the imagination. Let's see how he does. So with that, let's jump in.
So you are Stanley Anderson, DOC 110504. You're classified as a third felony offender. You're currently serving a 30-year sentence. You were sentenced July 30th, 1998. Attempted first-degree murder as a habitual offender. You have a parole eligibility date, which was August the 1st, 2021. You don't earn good time. You have a full-term date, November 25th, 2027. Does all that sound right, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, ma'am.
You answer Mr. Marabella's questions.
Good afternoon, Mr. Anderson. My name is Tony Marabella. You hear me okay?
A little bit, I can hear you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Anderson, how old are you, sir?
I'm 56. I'll make 57 on the 31st of this month.
And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
I've been in here 24 years and 6 months.
All right. Tell me a little bit about your educational background. You got your GED while you've been in prison?
Yes, sir. I received my GED in 2001, I think it was. But I started off in school and coming up in public school. I was in special ed. Now I was always yes, sir. I was in special ed, and I was always teased about that. You know what I'm saying? It was always a problem for me because I was always teased, and that's what started me with my aggression because I started cutting class, and just not going to school very much.
How far did you go in school?
I went to the 9th grade.
Did you have trouble getting your GED?
Well, I honed in those guys. I explained to those guys what I just explained to you, and I would tell them that I would need help. You know what I'm saying? Just to please help me because I wanted to get my GED. This is something I wanted to do, and they honed in with me, and I was able to accomplish that goal.
Mr. Anderson, I want to talk to you a little bit about your past. We can't ignore that, so we need to talk about that a little bit. You had a lot of violence.
Yes, sir.
You had a manslaughter conviction in 1985 where you got 10 years. Tell me about that. What was that about? You originally charged as first-degree murder. You're not pleading guilty to manslaughter. Tell me what happened there.
What happened was when it first started, I stepped on this guy's feet. I stepped on his feet in the club. And I told him, I said, I'm sorry, excuse me, man, like that. And I walked off, me and my girlfriend. Those guys, this guy and another guy came back and while we were dancing, he was standing there telling me, there go the guy there. That go the effing guy right there. We're going to get him in this, that. And I said, well, I'm trying to tell my girl, I said, now, these guys want to get me. You know what I'm saying? So I got to try to get out of here.
So we proceeded to try to walk out, and they walked behind us. And by the time we got in front of the club, though, him and the other guy jumped on me. So I'm fighting those two guys, then another guy jumped on me. You know what I'm saying? Once we get to where my car was, then I was able to get from around those guys and get my hands on the gun. And then that's when the shooting started.
How long did you actually serve in prison?
I think it was 5 years and 8 months or 9 months, something like that.
You were released on parole
Yes, sir.
and you completed your parole successfully.
Yes, sir.
In 1994, you were arrested for 3 counts of resisting an office. What was that about?
94? 94.
On your record, there's no disposition. I don't know exactly what happened. You may have never been actually formally charged or went to court, but you were arrested in 1994 for 3 counts of resisting an officer. You remember that? Was it a traffic violation of some sort? I didn't have any information on it, but you were arrested for that. In Gretna.
I don't remember that, sir.
Disturbing the peace, does that sound familiar to you?
Okay, yeah. Disturbing the peace, yeah.
Remember that? Also were arrested for counts of resisting an officer.
Okay, that was in the club. I was in the club, and yeah, I disturbed the peace. That they took me to the prison. I mean, to the jail to clean out. I stayed overnight.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this: the manslaughter charge and the resisting charge, or the disturbing the peace charge, was that involving alcohol or drugs in any way?
Yes, sir. It did.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Manslaughter charge. You've been drinking or doing drugs?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Which or both?
Both of them.
All right. When did you start doing drugs? How old were you when you first started using drugs?
I think I was about following the wrong crowd. I think I was about 11 or 12. And
What did you start using?
I smoked some angel dust with some older guys, and that stuff actually put me in a mental hospital.
Of course, yes. How long were you in the hospital?
I was in Mandeville, I think about maybe 6 months or 4 months, something like that.
And how old were you then, 11 or 12?
Yeah, around 11, 12, 13, somewhere around there.
Got out, still use other drugs?
Yeah, I was still using drugs. I was using marijuana, I was snorting coke, and I was drinking.
Did you ever have any treatment while you were outside of prison?
I never had treatment.
So how often were you doing drugs back then?
Back then I was like almost every day.
Drinking as well?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever have a job?
Yes, sir.
What
I
did you do?
I was working at American Waste trash company. And then I worked at a couple of restaurants. And when I got out the last time, I was working at Barrier Construction Company, where I was kind of clean then because I was taking human acid tests over there. So I stayed on the job for about 4 years.
So there are times when you could stay clean and sometimes when you go back to using drugs?
Yes, sir.
Consider yourself to be a drug addict?
Yes, sir. I needed help, and I just didn't know it.
How about an alcoholic? Figure you're an alcoholic as well?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let's talk about what happened in 1997. You got pulled over by the police. Tell me in your own words what happened and why you did what you did.
Okay, it started from another incident, sir. I was stopped by the New Orleans police, like about maybe an hour before this incident here, and I didn't have my license or driver's license or something to that matter, but I had insurance. So the officer gave me some tickets and told me, said, well, if you stop anytime tonight, just show them your tickets. you got your first foot in the right direction because you got insurance. I said, yes, sir. So me and these girls, we went to the dagger shop, we drinking, we smoking, getting high, then we proceeded to go play some pool. That's how I wound up in Jefferson Parish. So
We're drinking, smoking marijuana. What
Yes,
else? What else were you doing? What else were you taking?
we were snorting cocaine.
All right.
Yes, sir. And we went to the pool hall, shot a few games, and this girl got sick to her stomach. So I said, well, look, come on, let's go over here to the Circle K. I'll get you a hot 7-Up to try to settle your stomach like that. And got in traffic, and I'm weaving in and out of the lane. And when I pulled up in the Circle K, the officer pulled up. And I knew then, I said, well, wow, now here it is again. So I was already in an aroused state because I'm feeling like I'm being harassed earlier. Now I'm being stopped again. So I was already not thinking right, but I proceeded to get out the car when the officer got out and called me, and we went to talk and exchanging information with each other. And I told him I had tickets earlier. He said, well, where they at? I went and got the tickets, come out, and I gave them to him. So he said, well, I can't see you being stopped twice in one night. I said, well, I'm sorry, officer, but that's just you really not stopping, you harassing me, like that, because I'm just coming from the pool hall right across the street there, So we proceeded to just get into a verbal confrontation. Then one thing led to another, and we wound up getting into a struggle.
What did you have in the car?
So
What did you have in the car?
I had my tickets. When I went and got the tickets out of the car for him to see.
You didn't have guns in there and drugs?
I had drugs in there. I had the gun in my pocket. I had the gun.
Didn't the officer discover you had drugs and guns in your car, and that's when you hit him
Yes,
and then shot at him?
Yes, sir. I had that in my pocket. When we started fighting, that's when I up the gun trying to get away from him and hit him with the gun. I broke and ran. That's when he seen me through the drugs, and that's how he knew I had the drugs. Because I had the drugs in my pocket.
So why did you run?
I was afraid. At that time, I was afraid.
Well, I mean, a minute ago you told me I showed him my tickets, and he said, talking with him, you're explaining things to him. Then all of a sudden you pull a gun on him and shoot at him and run.
Before that, we got aggressive with each other. When he told me that not to tell him his job, we got aggressive with each other. And then once he told me turn around, I tried to quit. He grabbed me, and we just went to struggling from there.
Tell me what you've done while you've been in prison to address these anger issues that you have.
When I took the Cajun and Rage and the anger management, that's when it showed me I had to have the courage to really look at myself, look within myself, and find out where my anger comes from. What is anger? I know anger is a human emotion, but I didn't understand all of that. When I was younger, I didn't know. I'm thinking my anger was a form of being courageous on some. It's like somebody challenging me. I'm like, okay, let's come on. And I always just reacted. I never thought twice or anything like that. So anger management showed me there's better ways to handle your anger, not to let your anger lead to aggression. And that's something I didn't know. I just didn't know it. And then the first time I got incarcerated, I didn't do anything. I continued fighting and all that in my last time. But this time I wanted to change. I wanted to do something to help me be a better person, because I wanted to be a better person. And that's something that getting involved with the officer, that's not something I ever done. So I know I wasn't myself. I know I wasn't myself.
You had been charged previously with 3 counts of resisting an officer, probably because you were drunk or on drugs. So I mean, I got an issue with you and authority. That's a problem to me. So tell me how you address that issue.
By taking those classes, it showed me how to combat my anger and control myself, use self-control. and for them drugs, now I know I have a drug problem. I took the 6 months NAAA.
So tell me what substance abuse programs you have taken. I've seen you've taken Living in Balance, the substance abuse, and AA. Tell me what you've learned through those programs.
I've learned that drinking is something that you got to be keyed in, to be aware of, in other words, like the steps say, admit to drinking, knowing that that's your problem, and get from around that. You know that stuff that you can't handle, don't fool with it. That's why I don't fool with drugs in here.
What would be your sobriety plan? How do you intend on maintaining your sobriety once you are released, assuming you get released?
Yeah, I would like to join an NAAA support group, one of those groups out there, and tell my story, because those guys came here and told their story and it really touched me. I said, now that's what I have to do. I have to be keyed into something like that, because I started off with the wrong crowd, older guys. I'm young and into drugs. I never had no help. Somebody to show me the difference between not doing that and that's, I never had help until this time, until I wanted help. I wanted to change.
Tell me about your last write-up in 2020. What was that about?
The guy asked, had a cold, and Stanley asked me to, did I have any sinus pills? I said, yeah, I'll bring them to the kitchen when child time. I wrapped them up in two sinus pills up into a white toilet paper, and when we got in the kitchen, I reached it to him. And the lieutenant seen us. I said, wow, I should have asked the lieutenant before that. So and they thought it was contraband, but that's what it was. I told them, it was sinus pills.
So what did you ultimately get charged?
It was contraband.
And did you plead guilty to it or found guilty of it?
I was found guilty of it, yes, sir.
Was contraband. You knew the rules.
I didn't. Yes, I did. I didn't lose my job. I still had my job in the infirmary and all that, because I explained to the major that it was sinus pills.
Tell me about your transition plan. Where would you intend to live if you were released?
If I was released, I'll be living with my sister, Angel Anderson Brown, in Slidell, which they have a NAAA sobriety organization on Centenary Boulevard. And I'll be joining that, just to stay in tune with my alcoholism and drug problem.
How about, work? What kind of work?
I'll be working with Norris Henderson them at the First 72 reentry program. He'll provide me with a job.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes, sir.
First 72? Tell me what Crimeaholics is. You were in a group, you were in some programs. I think one of your certificates was Crimeaholics. What is that?
It's letting you know that crime basically doesn't pay. Crime, you got to be aware of being in an environment around the wrong crowd, people that's into doing wrong. It raises your awareness to the crime. That crime doesn't pay.
You also took or was in a program called Any Victim Affects the World. What is that? What was that?
Yes, I was a crimeaholic. It's something that showed me, well, it's not just the victim, it's the community that you hurt as well. You know what I'm saying? That's something I never knew. Like I said, I always reacted to things. I never gave it another thought. You know what I'm saying? Now, by taking that class, that really helped me. I don't want to hurt nobody. I don't want to be the person I was. That's why I never got into a fight since I've been incarcerated. That's something I just don't want to do. I just don't want to do that no more. I just don't want to be that person anymore.
Now, one of the big things, not the only about crime, but one of the things about your crime is you fired a gun at a police officer. And that's a grave concern for community safety. I mean, here these officers are out there protecting the community, and here, you know, you run away. It's one thing to run away, but you fired a shot at him,
Yes, sir.
attempted to kill him. Whether you intended to kill him or not, you could very well have killed him and found yourself in prison for first-degree murder. So how can I feel comfortable letting you out, realizing that you've done this in the past? How have you changed?
I've changed because crimeaholics have taught me. I mean, anger management have taught me how to just take a step back and not to take things so personal. An incident like that was to happen now, it would never go to that extent, because I would comply with the officer. I just wouldn't do nothing like that no more. I'm older now. You know what I'm saying? I already gave up on myself. I was mad with myself all the way until I got my GED, because I felt like somebody. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to be that. I don't want to be that person anymore. So I would never do that again.
Gordon, what can you tell us about Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, he recently was a trustee here at the institution. He's got a duty status right now that's kicked him out of that, but he and I discussed that the other day whenever we had our little meeting. You know, he hasn't had a write-up since 2020. You know, it appears that he's been on the right track as of the last couple of years here.
Mr. Anderson, have you ever had a mental health evaluation? Have you ever taken any kind of medication for any issues?
No, sir.
I noticed that you had taken a welding course and then you quit. Why did you quit the welding course?
I couldn't see. I had my reading glasses on, and all that new guys was helping me. I just couldn't see. I couldn't see within the torch. You know, I done got old. I done got too old. I guess, you know, I just picked the wrong VOTEC.
Well, what other VOTEC courses have you taken while you've been quit?
I didn't take any other VOTEC classes. I was in the infirmary for 8 years. I just fell in love with that job there. When I come here from penitentiary, from Angola, I just fell in love with the job in the infirmary, helping those guys.
What did you do in the infirmary? What did you like so much about the job in the infirmary?
Helping the patients. I had 3 of those guys die on me. The last guy called, my name was the last name he called. I just fell in love with the passion that I had for those guys that's like me, that's dying. I would, you know, that's why I stuck so long in the infirmary, helping those guys, writing letters for those guys.
Madam Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Anderson, let's talk about this write-up that you had in 2019. You had a contraband write-up in June of 2019. What was the contraband?
It was the sinus pills that I gave the guy.
Okay, what was the destruction of state property in 2020?
That was taking the weight and adding on to the ball, like tying it on to the ball, on the weight pile. But they broke me up.
The exercise group?
Yes, sir.
And you had one, a 30W in October of 2019. What was that for?
October 2019. 30W. That's okay. Let's see. I'm trying to remember. Oh, okay. I was under investigation for whatever. I don't know what it was, because they never told me. They never told me what type of incident it was, no drugs or whatever the lady found or whatever. But I never He just locked me up. Two of the orderlies was in the infirmary. The SARS was working, making a routine search, and she found some drugs or whatever it was. But I didn't ever show it to me. But since I was supposed to be on, I worked for 5 days a week doing the floors, stripping and all that. But I was I went up on the weekend to finish waxing. And that Saturday night, that me and the other orderly was up there. That's when that was found, whatever she had, because she never, like I said, she never showed it to me. But they locked me up. They didn't lock the other orderly up. They locked me up. And I stood in there 31 days under investigation, and they let me out.
And you were found guilty?
No, sir.
They
No, sir.
had a hearing on October 7th of 2019. Warden, see anything about that?
What is that?
The one on October 2019 is going to be the write-up that he was talking about earlier inside the kitchen. Well, that's going to be that write-up. He must be confused on his days.
Okay. And what was that about, Warden?
The write-up is pretty lengthy, but it basically says what he said a few minutes ago about standing outside the kitchen and small white object into his mouth. Both offenders were strip searched. No contraband was found. Due to Lieutenant Hill observing offender Dorsey placing a small white object in his mouth, they locked him up.
That was the Sanders Fields?
Yes, sir.
It doesn't say here. I mean, it was unable, once he put it in his mouth, it was unable to prove whether it was sinus pills or not.
Okay. Thank you, Warden.
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Anderson, we're going to hear from your family who's indicated they'd like to speak. Can we hear from Miss Angel Anderson, your niece? He wasn't able to connect. Do we have Miss Angel Brown?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Since the day of Stanley incarceration and him transitioning to Angola, I knew we had work to do. I knew it was going to be a process, and I knew it was something that we can obtain together. I knew he had to do his part, and I had to do mine. I talked to him and I told him some things in life, you don't just go through, but you grow through. You gotta change. You gotta want to be better. You gotta want to make a difference. We didn't have a father growing up, but at the same time, we had a mom who, no matter what we did, no matter what we went through, she told us the right way to go. And one thing he knows is everything he's done, he's owned up to it. And where he's going, God is going to bring him. I told him and I explained to him, if you do your part, I'm going to do mine outside. I'm going to make sure you have a place to stay. I'm going to always be here for you. But I want you to change. I want you to be different. And what I think has happened throughout this entire transition, going to prison has saved him in a way that we all see, in a way we all know. He changed. He's not the same. The way he think is different. The way he talk is different. His communication, his goals in life. He never had goals. He never had desires and dreams. He got children. Now he understands you can't just be Stanley Anderson. You got to be a mentor to these people, and not just to your family, but to the community. When you come out, you're able to tell the next person, help the next generation what you've been through, what you've gone through, and how things can change, how we can change our community. Our community is in a turmoil. But you coming out, you going through what you're going through will help so many of us, because I believe our steps are ordered by the Lord. We're not just here, we're not just existing. We're supposed to be living a life and showing others how to live, how to grow through things, and how to become who all that God has called us to be. I see that in him now. I can't say in 1980, 1985, what could have happened. What I see now, I see change in him. I see a difference maker. And I promised him, if you do your part, I'll be here with you. I have a place for him to live on the North Shore. I have a car waiting for him so he can get into the work life and accomplish things that he's supposed to accomplish and take care of his family. I see change. And I know he's going to come out and make a difference and change the generation. I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Brown. We appreciate you being here today. Mr. Henderson?
Good afternoon. I've been knowing Stanley pretty much all his life. You know, I kind of like grew up in the same neighborhood. And I was listening at, just thinking about when Mr. Marabella was talking to him about the anger. And listening at Angel, and she mentioned about growing up with our father. It was kind of like really, we didn't have really no male figures in our neighborhood. And all of our guys were coming from guys who maybe 3 to 5 years older than us. And one of the things they always instilled in us was never let nobody punk us. And so that kind of like created this kind of like masculinity in us, is that anytime somebody approached us in the wrong way, we threw up our fists. We were ready to fight, just to demonstrate to them that we wasn't afraid. And so listening at Stanley talk about the different things, that the challenges, that Stanley took it to another level. I mean, some of us kind of like aged out of the fighting, but that was something we did as kids. I mean, we fought each other in the neighborhood, fought other kids in other neighborhoods just because. And sometimes that kind of like carried over. I think one of the disadvantages of Stanley was that because of this intellectual disability to kind of like learn at an early age, he became more angry because he had even the cause. When he would actually fight somebody and win, they would actually say, okay, yeah, you beat the fight, but you're still a dummy. And so it kind of like set him off in a different way. Some of us, again, grew up out of it. And I'm here to kind of like support families, like you say, have a job opportunity waiting for him in the event the board, you know, is thinking about granting him parole. And we'll do everything to help him to stay the course, you know, to do the substance abuse treatment that he needs, to go to AA, to do those things along with the rest of the family. Because, you know, it's not a bunch of the family still around. I mean, he's blessed to have his sister still around and willing to help, and some cousins that's still willing to help. But, you know, Stanley just had a journey that took him kind of like through this vicious cycle that has taken him a while to kind of like figure it out. And I was kind of like laughing to myself when Mr. Roche asked him about one of the write-ups, and it was about adding weight to the iron pile. Well, we used to do that. When you kind of like start pumping iron, there's no more weight on iron pile, you start tying the dumbbells to the weight bar. In some places was approved. I mean, we didn't ever have that kind of problem in Angola because we had a powerlifting team. And, but, you know, I kind of like just laughed that sometimes some of the write-ups that folks got in those satellite institutions as opposed to, there never would have been a write-up in Angola for somebody adding weight to the iron pile. Not negating some of the other write-ups that he had, but I think Stanley has really come full circle. You know, it's not going to undo that early anger that he had in his life, but at some point, everybody has those growing pains. And I think he's gone through them now. He's almost 60 years old. And I think at this point in his life, that given an opportunity to harness what he has left of his life. And one of the things that I also thought about when he was describing his work at the infirmary, I remember when we was doing this documentary around hospice, and a lady asked me a question about describing what hospice was. And I was like, oh, that's what we do. I didn't know they had a name for it. And that's pretty much what Stanley was doing, was hospice work. He said he lost 3 patients. And so I believe that, again, that dictates his heart, because hospice is not a job, it's a call. And anytime you're willing to give up yourself to help other people who can't help themselves, that's a blessing in itself. And that kindness of others is kind of like the general reflection of the kindness of God. And so I think at this point, we're just asking that this board take into consideration, in light of the situation, the charge, and the criminal history, that give Stanley his opportunity at this stage in his life to rejoin his family. Thank you.
We'll hear from the opposition, Mr. Meyer.
Good afternoon, Randy Meyer, Assistant DA in Jefferson Parish. I think Mr. Anderson is moving in the right direction. My concerns are shooting at an officer in his past criminal history. That's very concerning. I'm not clear on all the disciplinary reports, and if he wouldn't have had disciplinary reports in 2022 and 2019, that definitely weighs on our mind, the fact that he had it, and his description and the description from the warden of the disciplinary report with the pills is not, they don't quite mesh. I think he understands that he has a drug and alcohol problem. I would really, I'd feel a lot better if he were to be released, if he had a long-term substance abuse treatment. I think that would help him tremendously upon his eventual release. So because of the nature of the offense and the fact he has not had a long-term substance abuse treatment, we would oppose him at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. So, Mr. Anderson, is there something you'd like to say to the panel before we vote?
Yes, ma'am. I would just like to thank the board for this opportunity. But like Norris said, I changed. If I could just get some help, if y'all can recommend me for some help or drug abuse or whatever, I'll be happy to take that. I just want to get with my grandbabies, just live my grandbabies. I just want the opportunity to be with my grandbabies. That's all I ask. I'm not that person anymore. That's all I ask for, a chance. I'm not that person anymore. I'm not that violent person anymore. I just want to be with my children and show them that I'm not that way anymore. That's all I ask. Thank y'all.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Start with Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Anderson, no question, the crime you committed is extremely serious, especially against a police officer. And that is certainly a very significant concern of mine. I came in with grave concerns about how I was going to vote today. Having listened to you and the things that you have talked about today, I appreciate your honesty. You've taken some good programs. You've taken some good substance abuse programs. I think you've got a grip on your substance abuse. You realize that it's a significant problem. Anger, explain that to me. Explain to me the way you grew up. I think it's tremendous that you were able to fight some of your disabilities and still get your GED. Done very well. Good comments from the warden. I also believe that it does say a lot about a man who chose to work in the hospital. You indicated that was one of the most important things that you did, helping other people. Critical. I think you've got a transition program with First 72. So Having said all of those things, my vote today would be to grant your parole with the following conditions. Number one, you reside with First 72 with Mr. Norris Henderson's group. You go a meeting week at curfew 9 a.m. and that you do 5 hours of community service work. I'm only one vote of 5, but that's my vote. Good luck, please.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Anderson, this one really has me wishy-washy. But due to your past violent history and you had a manslaughter and then you turn around and shoot at a policeman, I can't vote to grant today. I vote to deny.
Mr. Roche?
My vote is the same as Mr. Marabella under the same conditions.
Ms. Wise?
Mr. Anderson, I believe in you. I believe what you said, and I believe you can do it this time. But I would like to see you get some substance abuse treatment prior to your release. The fact that you got your high say, unless you know you can learn, you are capable of learning. So my vote is to grant after you complete long-term substance abuse treatment program, and then I concur with the recommendations made by Mr. Marabella.
All right, Mr. Anderson, you know, you're here before a 5-member panel today, and it does require a unanimous vote. You understand that? So far, you've got 3 favorable votes, 1 that's not favorable. So the outcome of today's hearing is that your parole's been denied. I want you to, I don't think it's all lost, though. I think you heard that we all believe you could benefit from some additional substance abuse treatment, and it's up to you now to request that. You need to ask for that. You'll have another opportunity to apply for parole, and I encourage you to do that at such time as you complete the long-term substance abuse and whenever you're eligible to do so. Good luck to you, son.
Thank you.
For today, that concludes our business at your facility, so we'll adjourn at 12:53. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Get up with us about those classes.
Okay.
All right, and that was 5/9/2022, and we're just going to fast forward right into 9/27/2023. Let's see if he has any better luck now.
Good morning, Committee on Parole. We are reconvening. We're at Rayburn Correctional Center on Monday, December 11th, 2023. It's 12:54 p.m. So, Mr. Anderson, you're classified as a 3rd felony offender. You're currently serving a 30-year sentence. You were sentenced in Jefferson Parish in 1998 as a habitual offender for attempted first-degree murder. You do have a good time date. That's in September. Let's see, September 11, 2027. Your full-term date is November 25th, 2027. All that sounds correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And let me acknowledge that we have some guests who we have the DA's office from Jefferson Parish who wants to speak, and we'll ask him to do so. And we also have trying to sign in, I'm not sure if he has yet, Mr. Norris Henderson with the First 72. Your case has been assigned to Mr. Freeman, Mr. Anderson. So would you answer his questions, please?
Okay, Mr. Anderson, how old are you?
I'm 58.
And how long have you served on this sentence?
26 years.
Okay. You're a 3rd felony offender. As you stated, you have a good time date of 9/11/27. Tell me what was going through your mind at that time. I mean, what were you doing? Was drugs how you made your living?
I had a job.
Okay,
I had a job. Sir,
where did you work?
I worked at Barrier Construction Company.
Okay, well, where did the drugs come into the picture?
Well, when I was running with the wrong group of guys, basically smoking weed, stuff like that. That's basically, just running with the wrong crowd. But I still was working.
What went through your mind? Why did you shoot at a cop?
Well, the night of the crime, actually, when before I got into it with that cop, I got stopped by a cop early that night and got a ticket from running the caution light or whatever. Now, when the other police come up on me, it was clearly my fault because I was aggravated, not knowing I had anger issues. I'm aggravated, and I'm speaking with the officer, but I got an attitude. I'm meeting him with bad energy. You know what I'm saying? But and then once he got control of the situation, and the things just went haywire. And we got physical altercation came about, but it was all my fault because I'm the one not like being all the way forward with the officer when he was just clear to stop me for a traffic stop.
Were you on drugs that night?
I was on alcohol, smoking weed.
Hey, what kind of alcohol you was on? Hard liquor or
Yeah, I was drinking Hennessy.
okay. How old were you when you started drinking and smoking marijuana?
I smoked marijuana for the first time. I think I was 12.
Did you ever use any other drugs?
No, I don't do no hard drugs. I never done cocaine and stuff like that. That was never none of my preference there.
Okay. Did you ever go to treatment for your drugs, or did you take any classes for your drugs?
Yeah, I took the class AA. Thank you for a change. They talk about the drugs and the steps and stuff like that. Be the change, and it takes you way back to when you first saw one of your family members deal with drugs. So that it makes you be brutally honest with yourself when it comes to that. Like, well, when you first seen that, when you first took the drugs, stuff like that. My oldest brother, I saw do drugs.
Okay. You have a pretty lengthy criminal history. You had a manslaughter charge. Tell me about that. You did 10 years on it.
Yes, sir. I was in the club. Me and the guy stepped on this guy's feet. Actually, believe it or not, I stepped on his feet. I apologized to the guy. So he left. He come back with two other guys, right? So me and him, we went to talking again, and then the other guy snuck me. So now I'm fighting all three of these guys, right? So it spills out to outside. And my friend of mine helped get these guys off me. You know what I'm saying? Then that's when I get the gun from him and was able to try to fought them guys off. We were shooting at each other and stuff.
So that's how that happened. Because I'll be honest with you, you were real honest with me on the first thing that happened. But that's what happened with the manslaughter charge. It started as a barroom fight.
Yeah, it started in the club, sir.
Okay. What other classes have you taken?
Well, I've taken Thank You for a Change, pre-release, NAA, victim awareness, crimeaholics, small employments, small business loan, or business.
Yeah, you've taken quite a few. You took anger management. You took balance 1 and 2.
Yes,
you took thinking for a change. What did thinking for a change teach you?
Thinking for a Change taught me about the self-awareness, self-value. Making the good decisions from thinking negative. Like breathe in the positive, and exhale the negative, stress and negativity. Just think in a positive way. That's really something I really like. I like that class there. And then the one about be the change. And it just teaches you how to just think differently. Take things in a positive way.
Okay, sounds good. You've had 13 disciplinary write-ups. Let's see, when was your last one? When was your last disciplinary write-up?
2020, so
2020, that was for 17, destruction of property. What did you do?
I was lifting weights on the yard. I take my shoestring off my boot, and I tie the dumbbell, the bell bar to the bar, make it heavier.
Right. Okay. What about the contraband in 219? What was that?
I was in the kitchen. A friend of mine I've been knowing since he had Pampers on. He asked me for sinus pills, and I walked to the kitchen and gave him 2 sinus pills in a piece of toilet paper. But I can tell you right now, when I was locked up for that, I was explaining the situation, because when one of the maids would walk around, they see me and they said, "They stopped it. What you doing in there?" And I explained the situation to the maids, and I said, "Well, I told you what I told him. I gave Stanley the sinus pills and wrapped up in a toilet paper." And she told me something that I was taken aback by that. She said that, "What's for you guilty by association?" And I was taken aback by that. Like my daddy once said, "You show me your company, I tell you who you are." It's like my friend, he's down to walk into the wrong thing, stuff like that. But like I said, I know him since he had Pampers on. And I gave him up, but by him being the thing that he was into, clearly the lieutenant could assume that it was drugs. But I'm here to sit as a man of my word, that I did not give him drugs. I didn't even lose my job in the infirmary for that. I was working in the infirmary. I didn't even lose my job for that.
Okay, let me ask you this. What could be your employment, your residence? Where you gonna live? Where you gonna work?
I'm gonna be working at living at the first 72 housing halfway house, where they provide the job and all resources for you. But then I have two jobs lined up from family members at the one of the jobs at Domino's Sugar out in New Orleans, where my cousin Mr. Mike Cooper Ryder, he's the manager over there at Domino's Sugar. He tells my cousin to all I needed to do is have my presence there. He'll hire me. And then I got another cousin of mine works at the Superdome, the Smoothie King Center. Well, his name Miss Takoya Green. She's the public safety staffing coordinator for New Orleans Superdome and Smoothie King Center. She'll hire me too.
Okay. What about your sobriety plan? What you could do about that?
I think the first 72 have a program that I could join over there. They just opened up a culinary school that I'll be joining or going to night school with, but I think they'll have all that stuff over there. I met some guys in the virtual interview, and they all being successful with the reentry program over there at the first 72 program.
Okay. Warden, what do you have to say?
Since I've been here, he's had no disciplinary issues. I do see him all the time in the infirmary, which has been his job, I think, since 2009 in the infirmary. So communicating and taking care of the people in the nursing care unit and doing what he does. So I can't say anything but positive things about him, Ms. Freeman.
Okay. Thank you very much, Warden. I have no further questions, Renata.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. I don't see any other questions. Did Mr. Henderson join in? His phone's going straight to voicemail. He's having trouble calling in, so we'll take the fact that he's trying to call in confirmation that that's your transition plan. We'll hear from the DA's office, Mr. Meyer.
Sorry about that. I knocked the iPad over. At this point, we're opposed to Mr. Anderson. He shot at a police officer, and I think that sends a very bad signal to the people in our society. I mean, we have a horrible crime problem, not only in New Orleans, but around the state and around the country. And I think we have to protect our police officers and the people who try to shoot at police officers, who do shoot at police officers, need to serve the time he was sentenced to without parole was his sentence. I know he is parole eligible now under our statutes, but I still think he should remain incarcerated. When you look at his risk assessment, it's high for antisocial thinking. It's moderate for substance abuse, mental health, education, and total needs. His programming is pretty limited. In 2015, according to the list in his file, it shows he did 100 hours. 2016 and 17, he completed Living in Balance. And then 2022, after the last hearing, he completed Thinking for a Change. Most of the certificates that are in his file were not recent certificates. Those were all taken quite some time ago. I think additional programming would be beneficial for him. His disciplinary report is concerning. As you know, Mr. Henderson, I think had one write-up in the entire time that he was incarcerated. Mr. Anderson here is 2020, he had one for property destruction. That indicates that he still has an anger problem. And he had one for contraband, as well as one other one in 2019. So 2019 and 2020, he's still getting disciplinary reports. That's very concerning to me. But for those reasons, we're opposed at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Mr. Anderson, does either one of your family members want to speak for you?
Yes, I would like to.
Okay, go ahead, sir, Mr. Clausen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Harlan Causey. I did 28 years with this man here. You know me, Ms. Renowski, from Angola. You paroled me in 2017. I've been out. I've been doing good. I come to the 72. I've got a job. I got more jobs than I can handle right now. No problem. That is my brother-in-law. I married his sister since I've been home. And if I was that bad of a character, I don't think I could have gotten a family. He's got a hell of a support staff that's out there. We're going to do everything in our power. The 72 has got things lined up for him. We got Norris on hold, Chico, Yancey. If I need any help from him, he's going to have no problem getting himself acclimated back into society. You understand? For what this here about, he's this, he's that. Everybody has their opinion. I know him for who he is. And I'm asking y'all to give him another opportunity because I'm like this here. I would bet my life that if he get out, he would die in the street. He ain't coming back. Because that's the same thing everybody thought was going to happen to me, but I made him out of a lie. Life is too good in the free world. And I ain't got to wait to eat 3 meals. So I appreciate it if y'all would grant him parole. Thank you.
All right, well, I'm glad you're doing well, and thanks for being here today. I appreciate hearing from you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Anderson, is there anything you want to say to us before we vote?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to first and foremost extend a heartfelt apology to Officer Dickinson and his family. And I also would like to thank my family for all the love and support they showed me over the years. And I'd like to thank the first 72 for the opportunity they've given me. And I'd like to thank the board again for this opportunity. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. I think we are prepared to vote. Mr. Freeman.
Okay, I'll be like Mr. Rochelle on this one. I had a violent history. I already had a manslaughter conviction and shot at police. I do want to note that Trooper Dickerson had no position on this. He did not recommend that you stay in or you get out. So I just want to note that for the record. You've done 26 years.
Yes, sir.
Long time. 26 years is a long time. And I want you to have supervision when you get out. If we leave you there till your full-term date, you're gonna get out and you're gonna be cold. I want you to have that probation officer watching you. And also, I want that probation there for you to turn to when you start having problems. And when you start having problems, you need to turn to him then. Don't wait till you get caught doing something wrong before you turn to him, because they're there to try to keep you out, just like we here to make these decisions on whether we feel that you can stay out and be a productive member. So I can't believe it, but I'm gonna take a chance on it. And I'm gonna vote to grant with a curfew of 9 till 6 and 3 AA meetings a week. That's just one vote.
Thank you.
Mrs. Jackson?
All right, Mr. Anderson, the trooper takes no position, on your release. He's leaving it up to the board. You've actually served most of your sentence. There are positive remarks from the warden, so my vote today would be to grant your early release to the first 72.
Thank you, Mrs. Jackson. Mr. Roche?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Anderson, this is the second time I've seen you. I saw you at your parole hearing on May 9th, 2022, and I voted for you. So I want to vote for you again. For Mr. Anderson, you got a golden ticket. You only get one of them. If you ever come back, you'll be in prison for a very, very long time.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Marabella?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Based upon the comments of my colleagues, my vote would be the same.
Mr. Anderson, I have a problem. I had a problem back in May last year, 22 rather. You know, this was not an aggravated flight. You shot at a state trooper. You meant to kill him. I take the position that, as the DA does, I can't vote for you today. You still have an opportunity to earn some good time. You do earn good time, but my vote today is to deny your parole. Because it requires a 5-member unanimous vote, you received 4 votes to grant, and that should be encouraging to you, but you got 1 vote to deny. Your parole's been denied today. Does that conclude our business? Warden, that concludes our business at your facility. We're going to sign off at 1:16. Thanks for accommodating us today.
Thank you.
Oh my God, and it comes down to Miss Renata declining. How can you even imagine in a world where you have a 5-panel board and Mr. O'Shea says yes, and Mr. Marabella says yes, and Miss Bonnie Jackson says yes, and then you have Miss Renata to kill the deal as the last one to vote. And I only can imagine that maybe it was the buddy getting up there and saying the wrong things. What made her do that? That's very out of character for her. And again, I just can't help it. Look, when his buddy came up, the way that it started, I thought it was actually pretty good. It's like, I've been for 27 years and this, but then he went off on a little bit of a tangent that was not good, like saying, I'll die on the streets, or he'll die on the streets before he comes back in here. And it's like, ooh, but I don't know. I don't know how much, if at all, that affected her. But let's find out how she votes this time, because we're coming right back to February 2025 and she is still on the board. Let's see how it goes.
All right, good morning. Committee on Parole is reconvening. We're now at Rayburn Correctional Center. It's 9:35 a.m. on Monday, February 3rd, 2025. Good morning, Warden. Would you and your staff introduce yourself for the record?
Yes, ma'am. Warden Travis Day.
Kirsten Herbert, records. Tracy Taylor, classifications.
Good morning, and we have Mr. Anderson. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am.
Would you introduce yourself for the record?
Yes, ma'am. Stan Anderson, 110504.
All right, Mr. Anderson, let me acknowledge some folks we have with us here today. We have folks from the First 72, Ms. Mia Lowy, who will be speaking at the appropriate time. We'll call on her to do so. In opposition, we have a representative from the District Attorney's Office in Jefferson Parish, and we'll call on him at the appropriate time also. First, Mr. Anderson, I'm going to read some identifying information into the record. Mr. Anderson, you're classified as a second felony offender. You're currently serving a 30-year sentence as a habitual offender. You were sentenced in July of 1998 for attempted first-degree murder. You have a parole eligibility date, which is August 1st, 2021, and you have a good time date, September 11, 2027. Does all that sound accurate to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Anderson, before we hear from everybody who wants to speak and we do our interview with you, we'd like for you to tell us what led you to jail? Why are you in jail? And why do you think that this panel should vote favorably for you today, to vote in your favor?
Yes, ma'am. Night of the crime, it was a traffic stop, me and the officer. When he pulled me over, all the officer was doing was his job. I'm the one that got combative with the officer. Right after he went to ask me my name and called in, my license plate. But one thing led to another, and we got off into a physical altercation. And as I was breaking away, we both shot at each other simultaneously. I'm running away in fear. But they were totally my fault because I'm the one started everything with the officer. The officer just was doing his job. But as I go through my classes and all that, I understand why I did the things that I was doing. I didn't know I had anger issues and all that at the time. I'm going through life having all sorts of problems, not really knowing myself. For me, going through these anger management classes and that type of stuff just opened my eyes to a lot of things in my life in the past. Like the last class I just took, the CERT or substance abuse class, they say, well, 92% of the criminals that commit crimes, they be on some type of mind altering drug. And that right there had me thinking in my past time of getting in trouble. Every time I got in trouble, I was under the influence. And I was glad I took that class. That opened my eyes. Ma'am?
I'm glad you took it too. Why
Yes,
do you
ma'am.
think we ought to vote for you today? Why do you think so?
Ma'am, I can't hear you.
Why do you think we ought to vote to grant your parole today?
I feel that right now I'm the best version of myself. I'm not the person I was when I come in. I'm just not. A lot of things I've done, I know now that I was wrong. I was just doing the wrong thing, following the wrong people, being around the wrong crowd and stuff like that. But since I've been incarcerated, I did the best that I could to rehabilitate myself. Looking forward just to try to do the right thing and make the right decision for my future. Ma'am?
All right. Well, thank you, sir. We would like to hear from Warden Day now. Warden, what can you tell us about Mr. Anderson?
Yes, ma'am. Stanley's been at RCC since 2008. He's a healthcare orderly, and he's been in there since 2009 in the infirmary, assisting with the patients in there and the nursing staff. As far as Stanley's character, always very nice and really have no issues with him. He's always very respectful to staff when I'm around. So looking at his disciplinary history, he does have a property destruction in 2017 where he was tying some extra weight on a weight bar, and he got an infraction for that. And had another contraband where he had some extra items in his locker and under his bed. But like I said, he works in the infirmary and does a good job in there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We'd like to hear now from Miss Mia Lowy, please, with the First 72.
Good morning. Thank you so much to the board for giving me the opportunity to speak today in support of Mr. Stanley Anderson. My name is Mia Lowy, and I'm the Director of Client Services at the First 72 Plus. We are a reentry organization based in New Orleans working to stop the cycle of incarceration by providing adequate support to those returning home from prison. We've been working with Mr. Anderson for a bit, since last April, I believe, to create a solid reentry plan for if he is released. Mr. Anderson interviewed and was accepted into our transitional housing program. So this program grants him 90 days to live in our transitional house free of charge while he works intensively with his assigned case manager to gain employment, open up a bank account, meet all these milestones. So that way, when the 3 months is over, we are able to send him off into the world as an independent person, living, working, and having stable housing. So the case manager will provide Mr. Anderson with employment support, will help him create a resume, connect him with any job training programs he's interested in, apply for jobs with fair chance employers. We're actually opening up our cooking school in the coming months. And during his incarceration, Mr. Anderson has obtained his GED and completed an immense amount of programming. He expressed interest in attending our culinary school. So we believe that this program will provide him with the knowledge and skills to obtain a job in the restaurant industry for completion. Mr. Anderson will work with our economic empowerment team to open a bank account, create a budget, and begin saving to afford that apartment after his 90-day stay has been completed. Our public benefits clinic will help Mr. Anderson apply for food stamps, Medicaid, SSI if needed. We will help him obtain any missing I-9 documentation, such as a birth certificate, a state ID, or a social security card. Mr. Anderson will be set up with an appointment at the FIT clinic, that stands for the Formerly Incarcerated Transition Clinic. So that will get him in with a primary care physician to get a checkup and any prescriptions renewed that he may have been taking during his incarceration. His mental health and substance use has already been addressed. He's completed an assessment with CADA. So he has already been input into their system, and he will be completing counseling with them upon returning home. We have a few social support groups as well. We have a 9 Steps to Staying Free class, which is a weekly peer mentorship class for formerly incarcerated people, supporting each other through the barriers of transitioning back into society. It addresses a lot of the same topics that classes, while they are incarcerated, do. So things like victim awareness, mental health, responding versus reacting. We have a family reunification program. Mr. Anderson is really eager to return to the city and meet his 3 grandchildren for the first time, as well as reconnect with his 3 sons. This program helps mend any familial relationships that are fractured due to a loved one's incarceration. Mr. Anderson will also be enrolled in our 5-day life skills class, which will help him readjust to living in New Orleans. These classes cover navigating public transportation, learning any renamed streets, answering the conviction question during a job interview, and setting attainable goals for the first year post-incarceration. So our team is really, really eager to welcome Mr. Anderson home and support him through this transition. He has one of the brightest spirits and best attitudes that I have ever had the pleasure to interact with. And I believe that he will really, really succeed and blossom when he comes home. So thank you so much for your time and consideration. And I hope that you will take my words into account today.
Thank you. All right, could we hear from the DA's office, please?
Good morning, Randall Meyer, Assistant DA, Jefferson Parish. And we're opposed to Mr. Anderson's request for parole. Looking at his criminal history, he had a prior first-degree murder that he pled to manslaughter and was incarcerated. Has a number of resisting and battery on battery offenses. And in this particular offense, he struck the officer and resisted arrest by flight. Then he pointed his weapon at the officer and discharged the weapon, shot at the officer. That's completely unacceptable. Looking at what he's done since he's been incarcerated, I find his programming is pretty limited. He took anger management back in 14 and 15. He took 100 hours. Then he's had living in balance in 2016 and 17 and thinking for a change in 22. He's had no victim-related programs. That's very concerning. Looking at his certificates, he got a certificate in 23 for some 8-week course in self-discovery, self-motivation, and positive affirmations. And then 2024, he received a certificate for the Trauma Healing Institute. I still feel there's more programming that he needs to do prior to him being released, particularly victim accountability and other victim courses that he could have. And since the last hearing in 2022, all he's had was thinking for a change, which was in December of 22. He completed that, and the certificates I mentioned. So for those reasons, we're opposed to his request.
Thank you. We appreciate your input. Mr. Anderson, your case has been assigned to Mrs. Ledoux. Would you answer her questions, please?
Good morning, Mr. Anderson.
Good morning.
Before I start asking you questions, I'm curious about something. Warden, do you have a classification person and they're available to you? I've got a question about his credits for programming. On the master prison record, it says 75 days. And reviewing the different programming, we have a copy of his program completions, and there are many, many hours that have not been attributed, it looks like.
Yes, ma'am. He's a habitual offender, and habitual offenders were not eligible to receive credits until 11/1/17. And it looks like he completed most of his classes before 11/1/17. I was actually just talking about this before, and I wanted to check it when I get back to my office and make sure that all of them that were supposed to be credited are credited. But I do see he would not have been eligible prior to 11/1/17.
That has solved the mystery in my mind.
But I will check it when I get back to my office.
We just spoke prior to the hearing.
Yeah, there's so many laws that change that's hard to keep up with. Thank you. Mr. Anderson, I want to acknowledge that you have said some statements that are very accurate. When you said that the officer fired his weapon at you, and then you fired back, that he had a right to, you were a felon and you had a firearm, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So, that is such a dangerous job. And you were already, had already spent 10 years incarcerated for a manslaughter, and you should not have had a weapon on you. And you acknowledged that, and I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a little concerned about your conduct record. When I see someone who's had 13 write-ups, but the problem is they've been more recent and consistent. You said you were working towards rehabilitation. Why don't you address some of those write-ups for me? How did you get them, and what were you thinking? Why am I seeing all these write-ups? 13 write-ups, and some as recent as 2020, 2019, 2016, 15.
We tied up on 9 pounds, adding weight to the ball. And
The 19 was a 30W.
okay, 19 with 30W. Well, a friend of mine asked me for he had a head cold. He asked me that I had some sinus pills. I told him, yeah, I'll bring it for him. I grabbed him in the store, the people walked down into the kitchen, and I gave him that. And what the other one, what year it was?
What's the contraband? 2019. What was the contraband?
That was one where they was doing a shakedown of his property in his locker, and he had one large plastic container that wouldn't have been sold in the canteen, and it had some fried chicken in it.
Okay. So those are no crimes of violence necessarily, so that's a little more palatable for me. What was the circumstance of your first manslaughter? Was it drug related or?
No, ma'am, no, ma'am. It was me being in the club, and I stepped on this guy's feet. I told him, I actually told him I was sorry. And I went on with the girl who I was with. And maybe about 30 to 45 minutes later, she came back with 3 other guys saying, well, there he is right there. And they all jumped on me. And so the bouncer in the club, he stopped us and then pulled us outside the club where the fight continued. And they all crowded me and stuff like that. And a friend of mine helped me get them off of me. And I was able to get a weapon from my friend and commenced to doing what I did, hurting the individual.
Convinced doing what you did, what did you do? So
Well, I mean, when I took the shot at the victim, I killed him. Being under the influence.
okay. I'm gonna defer to my other colleagues as well. Any other questions?
Yeah, how many total years have you been incarcerated?
27. I'm actually doing my 28th year right now.
So you did 10 for the manslaughter charges?
So?
Did 10 years for the manslaughter?
Oh, I think it was 7 years and 9 months.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I don't see any other questions. I think, is the panel prepared to vote? Is this what we'll do? I am. Mr. Anderson, I'm sorry, but past actions are a strong predictor of future behavior. Two murders concerns me greatly, especially with the time distance between them. I'm thrilled that you're doing some good work. I appreciate that you're not a terrible problem in the system. And most of all, Ms. Lowy, I commend you significantly for the work that you have done for reentry. An excellent job. I've not met you or heard from you before, and I read over the report. It was very detailed, very, and I hope those same services are available at any point that he gets out. Today, my vote is to deny parole based on past criminal history. Mr. Freeman.
Okay, Mr. Staley, last time I voted to grant you parole. And I'm looking at it and I don't see any more write-ups since then. But now you get out, if you go take those classes, you're gonna get out in a year. And I really think you would benefit from those classes to refresh your memory on what the classes were about. So, today I'm gonna vote to, deny, because I think you'll benefit from those classes and it wouldn't add, I mean, you'll be out within a year.
Mr. Tiller.
My vote is to grant, with the conditions of taking those classes.
Mrs. Stapleton.
My vote is to deny based upon your past violent criminal history, law enforcement opposition, and you do need the class in victim awareness.
Mr. Anderson, today my vote would be to grant after you complete the victims program and any other recommended programs by the warden. However, sir, you've received two votes to grant, 3 votes to deny. So the outcome of today's proceeding is that your parole application has been denied, sir. Good luck to you, sir. Try to get enrolled in that victim class. Whatever class you can. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
get all your classes, you'll get out.
Good luck. Warden, that concludes our business. We're going to sign off at your facility, 9:55. Thank you so much.
And they denied even with the Mr. Natsa grant. And I gotta tell you, maybe I'll surprise you with this, but I don't get it. I think that they should have granted. And I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to understand, because remember, he's getting out no matter what in like a year. And what Mr. Freeman said, either he misspoke or the math is not mathing up. It's like, you're getting out in a year. Anyways, take the programs. I don't think he was going to get out any faster by taking the program. And frankly, look, a lot of you watching this might have said, screw it, screw parole. I mean, let me just get out flat. Let me just serve my time. Been locked up for so long. Why would he want to deal with parole supervision? I mean, remember what? Have you guys seen the hearing we did out of Connecticut, where the real OG gets up there and he tells the parole board, "I don't need. You can give me parole or don't give me parole. I don't care."
Tell us why you think you deserve parole.
Hey, if you're gonna give it to me, give it to me. If not, I could go back. I'm not here to debate with y'all or nothing. If you're gonna grant me parole, grant it to me. If you're not gonna grant it to me, I got 5 months to go. As simple as that.
Well, Mr. Edwards, you make it very difficult to even consider you for parole.
I'm just being straight up. If you're gonna grant it to me, grant it to me. If not, I'll go back and I'll finish my time.
Because he was just done. And it's interesting, in this case where the only thing that I can think of why this board did not grant, the only thing that makes any sense to me is that they just do not want to take the chance that he will make a news headline. They just don't want to flip that coin, because to have someone who killed someone and who's locked up for attempted murder of a police officer to make a news headline, it will be bad for the governor of Louisiana, who handpicked this board to make sure that things like that don't happen. That's my opinion. And because, and again, I think that this type of information, this type of hearing, it allows us to dive in to really the different agendas that's going on in parole decisions. Because you go to the state of Connecticut and you can have someone who's up for parole. They could be a repeat offender against children. They can, have a long record. The victims can come up and beg and cry and say, don't release them. Wait till I graduate high school to release this man who did this to me. And then the parole board would say, wow, this is really tragic, but we want them to have parole supervision because, we think it's safer for the community to have them get out with parole supervision. And it's a bunch of BS, because they could have denied parole and had them come up in 2 years because they still have a 3-year sentence, right? It's all BS. Connecticut has their own agenda. They want to parole more people because they are continuing to make a claim that their incarceration rates are lower than the next 10 states, right? And that's their agenda. And Louisiana, in this case, I only believe that they were thinking, we just don't want to risk it. Because really, it would have made all the sense in the world to send them out with 72 plus. I can't stand that name. What does it stand for? It just makes me wonder. One Touch Ministries, 72 plus. There's a third one, which is a really weird name as well. They picked the sketchiest names. And we have seen Mia before. I think don't quote me if I'm wrong, but it's possible that she was engaged to an Angola inmate that got out. I could be mixing her up with someone else, so forgive me if I am. But 72 plus, they get paid by housing him, supporting him. This is a business pitch that they've been working for all these years, and it was denied from them. It's a sales deal they just missed out on. But it would have been in his best interest to go. And will they still take him when he's out? I don't know if they get the same. I don't think so. I don't know if the Department of Corrections will pay for him to be there. So yeah, I actually think they should have granted. It's strange, but I think that in this case, he has been putting in the work, and I think it would have been safer for him to be out on parole supervision. And you don't have a victim saying, please don't. So you can't And again, I think it's an agenda, and it's also in their best interest. They just don't want to risk it because, man, you're going to take someone who does have a violent history, who has killed a man before, who has attempted to kill a police officer, who really doesn't seem to show that much understanding of what he did was wrong, in my opinion, or at least unable to articulate it. Even in the situation describing the fight in the club, I don't buy it. He has a gun. He claims that I don't buy it. I think, in my opinion, he was the instigator of it. And how do you kill someone and then go and get a gun again? But still, just to put him, at least to give him some type of foundation when he's out. And what's it make a difference anyways? And one more program, please, reward him for his hard work. He's going to get back and tell all of his buddies, I didn't get paroled. I put in all this work, and they might, who knows? I don't know. But it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. To the risk of a news headline, if he gets out and does something that makes the news, and they just didn't want to take that chance. That's my opinion. I believe that that's what's driving this. What do you think? Anyways, these are 3 different parole hearings. We have more coming up like this. There's a playlist for this. It's called The Return of Playlist. Thank you, Sir Richard, for lining up the dots in the spreadsheet to make it possible to play these together. And we'll keep you posted on this. I don't know. I do have a feeling we're going to somehow see him again, but I hope not. And with that, I'll let you go.
I did 28 years with this man here. You know me, Ms. Renowski, from Angola. You paroled me in 2017. I've been out. I've been doing good. I come to the 72. I've got a job. I got more jobs than I can handle right now. No problem. That is my brother-in-law. I married his sister since I've been home. And I'm asking y'all to give him another opportunity because I'm like this here. I would bet my life that if he get out, he would die in the street. He ain't coming back. Because that's the same thing everybody thought was going to happen to me, but I made him out of a lie. Life is too good in the free world.